Hi everyone, I am Shakina the Neurodisruptor and I'm back again with another video. I know it's been a while since I've posted a video, but again, I've been traveling. It's been crazy. I've been traveling a lot this year and I'm going to be traveling even more next year. So I'm going to try my hardest to post videos as regularly as possible because it's important that my message gets out there. Today's video, I want to talk to you about this whole situation that's been going on with Rep. Ilhan Omar of Minnesota and Rep. Lauren Boebert of Colorado. So for those who are unaware, not too long ago, Rep. Lauren Boebert made some comments about Rep. Ilhan Omar that she characterized as bigoted and discriminatory comments, and even went as far as to use words like dangerous towards the Muslim community, etc. So basically, Rep. Lauren Boebert made a comment about Ilhan Omar being part of the Jihad squad, and also saying that she was in an elevator with her once and was relieved when she saw that she didn't have a backpack on. In other words, implying that Rep. Ilhan Omar is a terrorist. So I'm just going to go out and say this because there's really not going to be any positive way to say this, okay? But in the kingdom of God, and I know Ilhan Omar, you don't want to hear this, and I know a lot of Muslims don't want to hear this because you're okay with your blasphemy, but in the kingdom of God, remember that God is Jesus Christ. In God's kingdom, Muslims are terrorists. In God's kingdom, Muslims are treasonous. In God's kingdom, Muslims will not get protection. Okay. This is, you can call me discriminatory, you can call me Islamophobic, which, by the way, I have no problem with being Islamophobic. I am Islamophobic. I am proud to be Islamophobic. Nothing will stop me from being Islamophobic or convince me otherwise. Islamophobia is a term that describes a fear of Islam, and I do fear Islam spreading in the Western world. Okay, I don't fear Islam as a religion because I understand it. I do fear Islam having any sort of political power in the Western world. So yes, I am Islamophobic. There's nothing that you can say or do. You can come outside my house banging pots and pans as much as you want. You can, whatever you want to do, it doesn't matter. Nothing's going to change the fact that I'm Islamophobic and that I actually promote Islamophobia in the Western world. And anywhere in any country in the world that respects democracy, that respects humanity, that respects a peaceful, civilized society, that they should be Islamophobic. So I actually do promote Islamophobia. I am a promoter of it, and I even argue that I'm a pioneer of a new era and a new kind of Islamophobia. An Islamophobia where we fear Islam for the right reasons, and we are informed enough and conscious enough to articulate the reasons why we fear the spread of Islam here in the Western world, and to be courageous enough to stand our ground, irrespective of the ways in which people, particularly on the left of the political spectrum, are going to try and demonize us for speaking the truth. Like, for example, Ilhan Omar. What Rep. Lauren Boebert did, the only danger, I would say, in what she did was apologizing for her comment, because what Lauren Boebert has done is minimized the many acts of terroristic violence that Muslims get away with on a daily basis. And Ilhan Omar, people like Ilhan Omar who have platforms, public platforms like the ones that she has, and who have the power to speak out about the atrocities that are committed within the Muslim community and do absolutely nothing about it, and then yet to continue to parade around this Islamophobia narrative, while not doing anything to ensure that Muslims are being held accountable for their violence. And so what Lauren Boebert did was dangerous in apologizing for that comment, because what she did in making that comment is she tried to use humor to diffuse a very serious situation. Whether Muslims want to accept it or not, they are supporting Satan's agenda, and they are supporting a very violent, very diabolical agenda. Whether or not they want to accept this, it is the truth. And when you have representatives like Lauren Boebert who will make a comment like she made and then backtrack and apologize, that's dangerous, because then it shows that there's no united front and there's no consistency on your part, Lauren, in what you stand for and what you believe in. And if you believe that Islam should not have political power in America, then you shouldn't be backtracking and apologizing for your comments. You used humor to try and put across a political point. Why would you apologize for that? What reason do you have to apologize for that? And yes, Ilhan Omar is a terrorist, absolutely. And I would argue actually that moderate Muslims, period, are terrorists, and that moderate Islam, whatever the heck this is now, is a new form, is an emerging new form of Islamic terrorism. Because, you had initially people knew terrorism to be, groups like ISIS and Al-Shabaab and some of the violent acts that they're committing, using firearms, using bombs, using torture tactics, war crimes, etc. And yes, while that kind of terrorism does exist, there is a new form of terrorism, which is this moderate Islam. And it's basically where you have people like Ilhan Omar who are elected into office and then try and suppress our constitutional rights, particularly to freedom of speech and freedom of religion, and try to suppress our constitutional right and basically make us legitimize their cult of a religion and make us legitimize their blasphemy, because that's all Muslims are. They're just blasphemers. They don't believe that Jesus Christ is God and the Son of God. If you don't believe that Jesus is God and the Son of God, you're a blasphemer. It is what it is. And I'm not going to validate your spiritual and religious beliefs and put my soul on the line and participate and promote your blasphemy and participate in your blasphemy and validate your blasphemy. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. So if you want to call me hateful and discriminatory, go ahead. But I'm not going to validate Islamic blasphemy. I'm not going to validate blasphemy of any kind, but Islam is the worst, because Islam went directly to the source, Jewish law, the Jewish holy scriptures, and stole it and sprinkled some Arab paganism in it and called it Islam. And now, centuries later, they're demanding that we validate their blasphemy. I'm not doing that. So when reps like Ilhan Omar come in and demand that we validate their blasphemy and then call us Islamophobic when we criticize their demonic religion, when we call Muslims out for being terrorists and being violent and being people who are too irresponsible and emotionally immature to take accountability for their actions and their violence and their belief system, right? Calling us Islamophobic for that, you are a terrorist, because in the Western world, we've established a democracy that, and in a democracy, one of the fundamental constituents of a democracy are constitutional rights that include freedom of speech and freedom of religion. And that also means being able to criticize other religions, right? So why is it that Ilhan Omar can just come in with her freaking hijab looking like a shawarma, looking like a freaking beef shawarma, walking in and asking and demanding that we validate her blasphemy? You are a terrorist when you're doing that. Absolutely, you're a terrorist, and we're not going to support you in doing that, because moderate Muslims are a new form. They are the new terrorists. They really are. Because you they want us to validate. They're just making up their religion as they go. They have now found that there's a lot of tropes in their religion. There are a lot of practices that we are just not going to allow to happen in this new era. They're aware of that, and yet they want to remain politically relevant. They don't want to honor the blood sacrifice. They don't want to accept Jesus as God and the Son of God, but they want to remain relevant in this new era that we're approaching, whereby Jesus is returning and Jesus will reign in the millennial era. And they're trying, they're pulling on to strings, trying to remain politically relevant, to the point that they have now manufactured this new Islamophobia narrative, and basically claiming that there are moderate Muslims that are good, and there are moderate Muslims that don't promote this kind of violence, when all this is just a repackaging of a blasphemous, diabolical, violent religion. There is no way to repackage that. There's no way to make something like pedophilia okay or acceptable. There's no way to make something like rape acceptable. There is no way to make something, like harming a child acceptable, right? Like, these are things, they're just some things that there's no way that you can reform it and make it acceptable. So Islam by nature is a satanic religion because it hijacked Jewish law. The pioneer was a narcissistic Arab. He hijacked Jewish law, sprinkled some Arab paganism in it, and called it Islam because he was power hungry. And he did it by any means necessary, which even included shedding blood. Unlike Jesus Christ, who came and shed his own blood, Muhammad shed the blood of many, many people, including innocent pagans at the time, innocent people who were trying to defend their traditions and their spiritual values. And he literally shed blood for this religion. And now you want to come and talk about Islamophobia? Are you kidding me? This is a colonial religion. If you look at the history, I don't care. The thing is, Muslims think that they don't need to study Islam because Islam is divinely inspired. So because Islam is divinely inspired, we don't need to study it. We just need to follow it because God is always right. You're wrong. That's not, if you actually even believe that God is that simple, that in itself is a problem, right? That in itself is a problem. So when Muslims, if you look at the fundamentals of Islam, and if you look at the history of this religion and how it was founded, it is a colonial religion by definition. And now you want to try and repackage it? You want to come and call yourself a moderate Muslim and repackage it? How do you repackage colonization and make it acceptable for everyone else? If you want to go ahead and continue to believe in your colonial religion, by all means, you're more than welcome to do that. But don't force us here in the Western world, when we already have a spiritual tradition that we follow, which is the law of Jesus Christ, God. We don't know what the hell you guys are doing with that Mohammedan mediocrity and that Mohammedan blasphemy and that Mohammedan darkness that you all continue to defend and follow and whatever. You can, if you want to do that, I mean, I can't stop you. But what I do have power to do is stop Islam from having any sort of political power in the Western world. And I'll continue to use my story, my political influence, my power, my political platform, and my company, to continue to send this message out to other people who care about democracy and civility here in the Western world, that Islam is the biggest threat to democracy and civility in the Western era today. It is the biggest threat of our time. There's no way to sugarcoat this. There's no other way to say it. It is the biggest threat to democracy and civility of our times. And the people who are acting as vanguards to this threat are these moderate Muslims who are claiming that they're trying to bring a more peaceful, reformed, logical, modern Islam. We don't care. There's no way that you can repackage Islam to make us accept it and care about it. Jesus already gave us the law. We don't need what you're trying to sell us. We don't need it. Jesus already gave us the law. We're following Jesus Christ. The Western civilization was founded on Judeo-Christian principles, and even though we have strayed far away from that, we are going back to our Judeo-Christian roots. And Muslims, so help me God, there is no way in hell that Muslims are going to stop that emergence from happening. Absolutely not. Especially when you consider that there are women like me who were nearly sold off as child brides in the name of Islam because your pedophile of a prophet married a child bride. If you consider there are women like me who suffered that, and it was only countries like Canada, like America, like England, like Sweden, countries like this stepping in and saying, no, we're not going to allow that, and taking us in and giving us that kind of protection. There are women like me out there now who are grown, right? That happened to me 17 years ago when I was still a teenager, but I'm grown now. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm a grown adult now. And if you think for a second that I'm going to allow Muslim women to try and wiggle their way and make themselves relevant at the stake of my freedom, when I fought so hard to escape the shackles and chains of this spiritual prison known as Islam, if you think that I'm going to allow you to do that without a fight, you better think again. Not today, Satan. Not today. I will fight, and I will fight to the very bitter end to make sure that Islam has absolutely no political power in the Western world to cause us any harm and to threaten the democracy and civility that we so value and bank our civilization on here in the Western world. And if we're going to have political leaders like Lauren Boebert who are going to make comments, you better stick by them to the very bitter end, irrespective of the consequences that ensue as a result of your actions. Because if you don't do that, then you make yourself a fool and a coward, and then people end up losing respect for you. Like, I have lost respect for you. I had so much respect for you when I read the Jihad Squad comment. I thought, yes, like, go Lauren. And then when I read that a few days later, however long it was, you apologized, I totally lost respect for you when you backtracked on that. So you really need to, consider what side you're on and actually be consistent and stick to that side, okay? Because this is a real warfare, and in warfare, you don't get to sway. You pick a side and you stick to it to the very bitter end. So if there's anything that you should learn from this experience, Lauren, it's that. It's to stay consistent. Okay? And you, Ilhan Omar, you are a terrorist. You are a blasphemer. Okay? You are evil. You are anti-Semitic. You are anti-American. You will continue to be exposed for all the darkness that you harbor in that dirty heart of yours. Okay? Until next time.